As Twitter CEO Elon Musk continues to roll out the internal communications between top Twitter executives, the so-called Twitter files, questions swirl over what actions a GOP House of Representatives will take or might not take. Joining us now to shed some light on all this is Florida Congressman Greg Steube. Congressman, you are on the Judiciary Committee, and I know you have a lot on your plate going into the 118th Congress, but how have the Twitter files changed any perspectives or changed any focuses that you have had on planned investigations?
Well, it certainly illuminated a lot of things that conservatives all along thought was going on, knew was going on, but didn't have any facts or evidence that it was actually going on in these big social media companies. And now we have all the evidence that we need. Obviously, Elon Musk is going to be somebody we can work with and give us the information that we want. There's a whole litany of things that we have planned for these big tech companies. I think it's gone so far as you have the government requesting and demanding these social media companies, for example, censoring the Hunter Biden story. And that's a violation of federal law. Federal employees cannot use their position in the government for political purposes. So I think there's going to be some criminal investigations and some of this. I think there's going to be a lot of investigations as to what's been going on and putting that in front of the American people. And then we need to pass bills like what I've worked on in the House the last couple of years to end Section 230 liability protection for some of these big social media companies. They've clearly been acting like publishers. They've clearly been acting and editorializing the content, and they shouldn't have liability protection protecting them because they know there's no justification and there's no retribution whatsoever for the American people when they do these type of things. So there's a whole host of things we're going to be working on when we get the majority.
So if I understand you right, you basically are saying that this just made your jobs a whole lot easier in terms of focusing who your targets are now with the evidence that have been coming out.
Yeah, not just the subject matter of what we thought was going on with censorship, but now we know names like Jim Baker is a big name that's been talked about with some of these file dumps. We know other names of Intel officials. I think the number was like 35 that left either CIA, FBI, Intel communities that then worked for Twitter. So now we have actual names of people that we can subpoena, names of people we can get correspondence from, documents from. So it certainly aided us in the ability to kind of fast track the investigations and giving us specific targets for those investigations. And we will have that subpoena authority that I've been in Congress 4 years and we've been in the minority. And we're looking forward to having the power to call some of these people in, cross-examine them, put them under oath, and ask them very difficult questions.
Congressman, under a different committee a couple years ago, the then CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, sat there and told your colleagues that Twitter did not, in fact, censor conservatives. We now know, based on the Twitter files, that this was a lie. The question is, did Dorsey knowingly lie when he was testifying, or was this just kind of a slow, evolved policy decision that Twitter made? Do you think Dorsey is going to be culpable in any of the findings that result out of these Twitter files and out of your investigations? He maintains that there was no ill will behind censoring and suspending Donald Trump from Twitter. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that issue up because, and we put it in our tweets, the exact things that he said in committees under oath, and then the Twitter dumps of information that completely contradicted what he said under oath before committees in Congress. It is a felony to lie to Congress. Michael Cohen can tell you how that works when you lie to Congress and get convicted of that. And we absolutely are going to be looking at that based on what I have seen. And obviously, we haven't dug in on his communications, dug in on, obviously, he's going to be brought in and we're going to depose him. But based on what we know now, I don't see how he isn't found guilty of lying to Congress, because what he said and what we now know are completely different things. Now, of course, he's going to say exactly kind of what you leaded to. Oh, I didn't know what was happening underneath. But I can guarantee you, between all those email communications and you start deposing people underneath him of conversations that they had, if there's evidence that he did know and he knew beforehand and lied to Congress to hide up the censorship that was going on Twitter, there absolutely is criminal culpability there. And the Judiciary Committee would have the ability to send prosecutorial referrals to the DOJ.
And then the question becomes, how how much can you trust the DOJ at this point? Because now it seems like a huge conflict of interest. They had their own people talking to Twitter. It's on record. And there seems to have been this collusion and very close relationship between the FBI and Twitter to censor conservatives, censor certain accounts, blacklist certain accounts, and take down any kind of thought that went against the DNC. How do you get around that? How do you get around this deep mistrust the American people hold for the FBI and the DOJ right now?
Well, and that's other investigations that we're going to be doing at some point in the Judiciary Committee, is going after the politicization and corruption in the DOJ and the FBI and our intelligence agencies. But you're right, we can send prosecutorial referrals, but that doesn't mean that the DOJ is going to prosecute them. I can see Republicans asking for a special counsel to be appointed to specifically investigate these individuals, especially given the fact that we know there's a whole slew of higher ups in the DOJ and the FBI that was working for some of these social media companies. That would certainly be what we asked for. But that's why 2024, and I know it's 2 years away, is going to be so important in the presidential race to get a Republican president in there that's going to be able to clean house, bring some posterity back to the Department of Justice and some equity back to the Department of Justice, where it's all equal under the law, and people that have broken the law are going to be held accountable regardless of what their political backgrounds are.
Congressman, you've long been an advocate of action over bluster, and you've really shown a lot of that in the years that you've spent in Congress. But the American public don't seem all that confident that the Republican House, with the majority that it has, is going to get as much as it needs done in this next Congress. What's your response and what's your answer to those Americans who are a little bit skeptical right now? Monmouth poll just came out. Only 18% of Americans polled in that poll think that this next Congress will be able to accomplish anything. Your response to that, your response to the American people who are a little skeptical now?
Now, I can tell you this congressman's going to fight for our American values, for America First values, for conservative principles. I know Jim Jordan in the Judiciary Committee is going to fight. The challenge that we're going to have is we have a Republican House and a Democratic Senate. But the purse strings reside in the House, and oversight authority and subpoena authority we have in the House. So all of these investigations and oversight we will be able to conduct, show the American people the evidence of the corruption in the DOJ, the corruption in the FBI, the things that have been going on in these social media companies, and set things up for 2024 for the American people to decide, do they want a Republican president that's going to change all of these things that is happening at these administrations? But we're not naive in the fact that there's a Democratic Senate, but I do think there's going to be a lot that we can accomplish using the appropriations process to accomplish policy objectives and using the subpoena and oversight authority that the House has to do investigations to bring the truth to the American people.
Speaking of purse strings, you look at the Senate side, and there's a huge rift that's forming between the Republicans on the Senate and the House side. Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader, is signing on to this omnibus bill that the Democrats are pushing through a lame duck session. And what that does is it seems to essentially steal a lot of that purse power that the House Republicans hold. What is the strategy now for House Republicans to fight back that machine, that Mitch McConnell kind of, what's going on there? Why is McConnell doing this?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I've called on all Republican senators to not vote on any budget bills. I didn't even want them to pass the NDAA. We were 20 days away from Republicans taking the majority in the House. Why in the world would we cede power to Democrats, negotiate with Democrats under terms where we don't have the majority in the House right now, but we will in 20 days let us, Republicans who got elected, that the American people elected us to run the House, to go through the appropriations process, to cut out all the garbage. Washington has a spending problem. Republicans intend on trying to peel that back. Why would you cede authority to them? I have said time and time again to our Republican colleagues in the Senate, do not pass any budget bill until the Republicans take the majority in the House, and we have a heck of a lot more leverage because those appropriations bills come from the House. And why would you cede that authority to them? So I'm asking our Republican colleagues in the Senate not to vote on anything until we take the majority back in the House.
It's a stunning turn of events, certainly, and there do seem to be a lot of pushback on the House side. So final question, what do you think about the incoming freshman class There's a lot of new Republicans coming into the House. You've met a lot of them. How would you describe them in a word?
A lot of America First candidates that I'm looking forward to working with. We had we went from 16 members in Florida to 20. A lot of that majority that we gained in the House came from Florida, and I look forward to working with those America First conservative Republicans.
Florida is going to be a hotbed of a lot of debates going into 2024, so that's going to be very important that you have a lot of representation down there. Congressman Greg Steube, thank you so much.
Yeah, great to see you.
Our panel of experts weigh in next on the possible ticking time bomb in two very interesting locations. We'll be right back.